whether you like it or not. So what else was observed in mammals is that not only makes you live longer, but you do not develop diabetes, you do not develop blood pressure, you do not develop arthritis. There are, believe it or not, about 100 diseases that are directly associated with being overweight. So this observation was remarkable. Now we know that gene exists in humans. Wouldn't that be wonderful if we could do something similar, calorie restriction, and live longer and live healthier? I know it's too good to be true. It's like, well, I never heard of this before, and I don't know if I should believe it or not. The reason it is important to believe something like that, medicine is coming of age now. To this day, we are practicing primitive medicine. 50 years from now, it's all going to look like, how did we do medicine? That will look like you could make jokes about it. But right now, medicine, physics and chemistry and other natural sciences had already come of age. But biology was very behind, and the reason it was so behind because it's very complicated. You might think physics and mathematics is hard to understand in high school. Actually, they are so much simpler. A human body or any body, any species, so complicated. But this is for the first time that we are starting to study human body almost in a mathematical fashion. It is becoming science. Medicine is not science, never been science, but for the first time it's becoming science. So genetic research, whether you like it or not, it's mathematical. It's almost you have no choice but to believe it. It sounds like a slight exaggeration because there are some unknowns we don't know yet. But how many of you believe that 2 plus 2 is not equal to 4? Or 2 plus 2 is equal to 3 or maybe 5? Anyone here? So now that we know this story, it should be somewhat motivational. At least it should be a good starting point. You agree? Some motivation. I don't expect you to, go on low-calorie diet when you leave here. Now, I think the question is, if we were to do the same thing, how do we do it? This is no rocket science. You heard about this before, low calorie, eating less. What's the big deal? What am I telling you that you don't already know? You know about it. We're going to briefly discuss how you do it. And then we are going to go into why you are unable to do that. So how do you do this? I will allow you to eat junk, garbage, whatever you like to eat for first 3 months. All I'm asking to do is that you dramatically cut down on the amount of food that you eat. Go ahead, eat your French fries, your cookies, ice cream, whatever you want. There's no bar on that. Do me one favor, don't get on the scale every day. You get on the scale before you go to bathroom, you get on the scale after you do number 2 and you say how many pounds I shed. That is mental illness. You are not allowed to get on the scale more than twice a year. And you don't have to prove anything to yourself because your friends, everyone will tell you. You look like a different person. What happened? What did you do to yourself? Do not get on that scale. That's a precondition if you want to do something about this problem. So your question is, but foods are good, they taste good. How am I going to starve myself? I'm not exactly saying you need to starve yourself. All I'm saying is you're going to dramatically cut down on the amount of food. And please don't do any tricks. You come to me and say, I used to fill this much plate, now I fill half. That's a trick. That's a magic trick. You will be still eating the same amount of food. You can fool yourself. You did not count the in-between snack. And actually, you have a rule that you're going to fill only 2/3 of your plate. Actually, you initially filled this much and made 2/3, which comes down to the same that you used to fill before. So those tricks don't work, because that is you living a life of lie. What you have to do, the criteria you use is that when you eat, you are not satisfied, there's a lot more left, and you say, I'm going to stop. The question is, how are you going to do that? Because you're going to starve yourself? This is bad news, but I also want to give you good news. The way human stomach works, all mammalian stomach works, do you ever wonder when someone delivers a baby, the average size of the uterus is the size of my fist, and when some deliver 10, 11 pounders, it's this big. How does it get this big? Because the muscle fibers can stretch, they're elastic. Stomach is the same way, it has different kind of fibers, but they can stretch much, much more than the uterus ever will. And do you ever wonder those competitions that who can eat more burgers? Where the hell those 100 burgers go? Where's the room? Realize that the stomach, food cannot go into intestines, small intestines, until it's processed in the stomach first. It's subject to the acid. Hydrochloric acid gets break down. Only then it will, otherwise it won't go further. And if it does, you will have a big problem. So the gut has certain segments. The first segment has to do its job. Esophagus doesn't really do anything, goes right through, ends up in the stomach. It has to be processed in the stomach, or else you will not eat food. You will be dead. So where do those 100 burgers go? Because the more you eat, eventually you will shut down that. You have a way of shutting down that communication between the stomach and your brain. Your brain will stop telling you that you are full, and you keep on stretching your stomach, and it can get this big. You can make it as big as you want. That's how they are able to eat 100 burgers at one time. The same is true when you eat less. What happens is the stomach starts to shrink. So you have tortured yourself the first 2 months because you are starving. What happens? Magic happens after 2 or 3 months. Most likely happens at 3 months. If you can do it for 3 months, that's all the torture I'm giving you. 3 months you do, all of a sudden your stomach shrinks to the size that you are very satisfied with that half the amount of food that you eat now. Not to mention the fact that you are shedding weight like you won't believe it. One caution you have to take, you must take, that if you don't do it right, you have to watch out that you don't become malnutritioned. You have to start doing light exercise, because one of the problems with weight loss is that when you lose weight, no matter how you do it, you lose fat, but you also lose muscle with it. And you guys all know about it. You want to lose fat, you don't want to lose your muscle. So in order not to lose muscle, you do a little bit of exercise, a little bit cardiovascular, but also a little bit light weights. You will continue to preserve that muscle. Keep on building a little bit. You lose some, but you build it back. You lose some, but you build it back. So at the end of the 3 months, you have your muscle that you had originally, but you lost some fat. So you have to watch out against malnutrition. You have to watch out against losing that muscle. If you can do these 2 small things, eat whatever you want. Do you ever wonder if you get a bag of chips and you're watching TV because you are so hypnotized that you have to finish that bag? It's an obligation that you must finish it. If you have a big plate, it's an obligation that you must finish it. This is a behavior problem for most of us, not every single one of us. So we might have the time to go into some details about those who have a genuine problem. They need a little bit of help. So what happens is, after 3 months of doing that, you can ask, the gene will turn on. We don't know exactly, it takes 3 months or 6 months for that gene to turn on. That is usually sleep throughout your life. These genes that I mentioned, This is what they do. If you're curious, what does this gene do? How does it work? What is it going to do for me? This is what it does for you. These genes are called repair genes. Let me give you a little bit of background what repair gene means. Before you understand the repair gene, you need to know a little bit how our body fights aging, the aging process. Whether you are an active person, you are healthy, you exercise, or you are not an active person, your body still fights, continue to fight against the aging process. This is nature's way of, fighting. We don't want to die. And the way body fights against aging, one of the ways, there are about 3 mechanisms in biology. One of the primary methods by which our body fights against aging is a set of repair genes in our body. What they do is the damage that is happening to our cells all the time from cosmic radiation, from pesticides, from eating foods that are contaminated, unclean water, carcinogens in the environment, mutations that happen due to changes in the DNA molecule. These genes go out there, make proteins. These proteins go and repair wherever the damage is done. That's the primary process how we fight aging. Our body fights aging. Now, under normal circumstances, when damage occurs, our body will make those repair genes and they will turn on and send out. So let's use an analogy. Let's say your house is breaking down, the roof is falling apart, the doors, the hinges are not working, making noise. So what do? You call a plumber, electrician, bricklayer, whatever the defect is. You want to rewire your electric wires. So you try to maintain the house. But the old house is going to remain an old house. It's not going to become new. The difference between these genes and the ones that turn on calorie restriction diet is that these genes are also repair genes, but they increase the speed, the rate of repair by 100-fold. Now imagine your house is old, it's breaking apart, and now you call a complete crew of carpenters and bricklayers and someone who's going to change your roof and doors and your floors and your ceilings and paint your walls. You're pretty much going to overhaul everything and you're going to have a brand new house. That's what these genes do. They speed up the mechanism of repair tremendously. As a result, the anti-aging process begins, and as you grow older, you are not really getting older. You are getting older, but the process really, really slows down. That's why you wonder, you are 60, your friends got diabetes. We are twin sisters. She got diabetes because she is overweight. I tried to lose weight and I didn't get diabetes. By the way, when you lose weight, if you already have blood pressure and diabetes and arthritis, they tend to improve. You can get off medications. But that's beside the point. That's a medical fact. So this is how these genes work. Now let's get back to how do we do it. 3 months later, you are turning on this gene which ordinarily will sleep throughout your life. It doesn't do anything. By doing this methodology, by the calorie restriction, you turn on that gene and it gets to work. That is plain and simple. That's what the mechanism is. And 3 months later, you are not hungry anymore. Now you have to ask yourself another question. I did all this very successfully. Maybe I can go one step further. I not only eat less, but perhaps I can start eating healthy. First 3 months, do not think about eating healthy. It's too much burden, too much to handle. If you can just stop getting on the scale and eating less, that's all you have to do. Stop thinking about losing weight. Just torture yourself a little bit for 2 months. After that, you will not torture yourself because your stomach will shrink and you won't feel hungry anymore. And you will